Thank you, Lord, for every blessing and every day that I breathe. Your love is the reason for my smile. And the
Okay,
hope that I
I'll just let you
always
take this for
carry.
that. Okay, well, we're on to chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Okay, so we're doing instructions on marriage. Okay, so I have 1 through 4 here. Because it's talking about there's so much sexual immorality here. So is it because there is so much sexual immorality, we should love our spouses and help them not be tempted by fulfilling their sexual needs. And so again, we're talking about like prostitution being such a big deal in Corinth. So if it didn't matter if you were a male or a female, if you were being unfulfilled, the temptation
Was very high then.
Yeah, because it was literally everywhere. You could go anywhere and get a prostitute. And today I feel like, I mean, like in our current culture, it's illegal, not impossible. It is not that hard to find a prostitute. But as far as the sexual immorality and the temptations, it's like our media nowadays is just...
That's how, that's what sells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all we have to do, I mean, can you remember like back when we were kids, we were finding magazines or videos or something like that, and that's how things like that were introduced to us. I mean, now when we're married and we're feeling like tempted, it's so easy to pick up a phone and just look at the worst of the worst. And we don't want our spouses to fall into that trap. So,
and there's a lot of people also that are not following Christ, that your spouse is around in their environments, that don't have these standards, that if they're not being fulfilled, they can be very tempted by that environment.
Right. Yeah.
Not like, I mean, just like at work, not they're out and about prowling the streets.
Right. Well, and in a culture that's, depraved immorality and broken homes and all of that stuff, it's easy for those people wanting to cling on to somebody who looks good.
Yeah.
And so being, this probably seems backward, but if you look like you're a decent wife or mother or father or husband, then you're actually more intriguing to somebody who's desperate for love and physical affection. And so that person will then go to you. And if you're not strong in your relationship, then it's a lot harder for you to resist that.
Absolutely.
So what we can do for our spouses is to help them have less temptation because they are fulfilled at home. And that's I don't know. I think it's really a good thing to do.
And I know it's currently on this topic of sex, but it's more than just sex. Like, I think as a wife, like, we're called to be the helper. And so however that looks to have them when they're in around you, like, how are you helping them?
Yeah.
How are you helping your husband to feel at peace and to feel supported in his life? And are you a safe, comforting landing place for him?
Right.
And because he's out facing the world and leading your home, and so he needs a safe landing place and somewhere to turn off with,
Right. Well, he needs a friend.
Yeah. And a person to have a conversation with that is safe, and vice versa then. So as the husband, like, are you how would you phrase that for the wife, for as a husband?
Like a husband, just, she needs someone to lean on and talk to, and someone to encourage her, like you had talked about earlier, the whole, have you prayed about it yet kind of thing. I mean, she needs a husband who's going to be able to lead her. And I think that's a lot, it's like if I could tell the husbands one thing, it's just like, don't be afraid to lead your family, to love your wives and to listen to them. They don't just need you to come in and fix everything. They need you to listen and lead.
I think I told Josh fairly recently, but I said, I have so much things that I'm responsible for, and I'm trying to remember when I'm around you, there's so much peace because I can just shut off
Mm-hmm.
Like I can
So that non-judgment zone.
yeah. Well, I don't have to make decisions. Not that I
Mm-hmm.
don't get an opinion, but it's like I trust that you're going to lead this. You're going
Right.
when I mean, even when he's not around, I know he's leading, but like when
Mm-hmm.
I'm in his presence, when we get together, like I just have that peace and I can breathe. And I think as a husband, can you allow your wife to breathe? Like what does that look like for her to breathe and um leading her.
Yeah.
So when you're leading her, she doesn't have to lead, she doesn't have to carry it.
Right.
And make a wife, I think you also have to make sure you're not getting that confused. Don't try to lead your household because
Mm-hmm.
that's also going to have your husband go and be distracted of somewhere else where their woman will be.
Right. Yeah. And that's hard because I fell into the things like, well, what if he's not leading?
Yeah.
In certain aspects. But then again, if you fill that gap of leader, then your husband doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard too.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it open.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he's still growing into that position,
Yes.
allow it to not look as smooth as it should for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the uncomfortable aspects of giving him a
growing through
space to
that.
grow. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so good. That's so good. Because I think a lot of men haven't had that nurturing of being taught what that looks like to lead in a
Mm-hmm.
household. And a lot of our culture is not having men grow up as a Christian man to lead a household. There's a lot more of that. And so, and to transition from a boy to a man and then a man to a husband, like there's learning curves of that. You have to give your husband grace of learning what that looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa, giving your
Right.
wife grace of learning that.
And hopefully you can be around other couples that are more mature, more seasoned, that have been able to like walk this out,
Yes.
walk their faith out, and then can lead you along that way and have those hard conversations with you. But that's another thing too, is like once you find those, you have to be willing to actually listen to that
Mm-hmm.
and put your pride down and allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm. And whatever
Yeah.
role you're in as a husband or a wife, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. I was raised by a mom who was very much we women and
Mm-hmm.
women kind of empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And so to come and be a submissive wife, I didn't really know how that looked, and
Mm-hmm.
butted heads a little bit because I didn't know how to be a submissive wife, and so there was some growing pains for us, but
yeah,
it's okay, like because we were both willing to grow through that.
mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to grow from that, that's when the distractions will come. That's when the things will become
Right.
And I know currently, so like we're on chapter 7 and talking about sexually. So
Mm-hmm.
specifically, not what was the we should love our spouse enough to help them not be tempted. And so specifically in this chapter, it's talking about sexually,
Mm-hmm.
that you need to take care of your spouse sexually as a married couple.
Right. Yeah, and then that's like with 1 through 4. And let's see, let me find my place again here. And so it's, both husband and the wife. And then talking about giving the authority over each other's bodies to each other, which I think is, really neat. Because if you're both living under the authority of God, then this really is not a big deal if you're doing it mutually.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 5 it says, do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time so you can give yourselves more completely to prayer. And I found that really interesting because, I mean, when you fast, you keep yourself from eating. And then when you're hungry, it's a cue to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you do that longer, like if you're doing more than a day's fast, then you get like mental clarity and all that kind of stuff. And so I found it interesting that abstaining from sex could actually do something there too. And I don't know, it piqued my curiosity as to what that would actually
grow
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what that would actually do. But, that would only be if it's a mutual thing. You can't, be holier than thou as a wife and say, yeah, we're not doing anything this week because I'm going to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And your husband's like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't even think women
Yeah.
do go it for prayer. They just, I don't want to. I don't feel like it.
Right.
And a lot of, I don't feel like it, or I'm busy, or I have kids to take care of, or like there's a lot of busyness as well as women, and we like to take on the entire world, and it's important that we
and just stop and realize like how important our relationship with our husbands are. And just like,
and if you're going in with the goal of 4 of I don't need to take care of my body and worry about my body, he's going to take care of my body and worry about my body, and vice versa, it becomes selfless,
right,
and it becomes that much better than when you go into knowing like, okay, going into sex isn't the idea of me, but like, can I serve you, and knowing in the same return that they're going to be caring about me as well.
Right. And so like, if you don't feel like it, or you're really not feeling well, then there's not going to be any pushiness from the other either. I mean, if you're legitimately that is actually going on and you're saying that because something's off, then your spouse loves you enough to be like, oh, well then what can I do, to help? It's not the way we perceive that it would work out if we would give this much power to our guys over our bodies. It's completely the opposite. They become our protectors. It's really good. Now, if you're with the wrong guy and he's not following Jesus, then this is not really for you. Because this is for the church. It's still in the church.
For the equally yoked.
Right. So you are not.
That's why it's important when you are looking for someone that you are looking for people that are following Christ, that are in the Word, that are modeling that in other areas of their life. Like, have those conversations too.
Right.
Have the intimate conversations.
Right.
What that looks like.
Let's see here in 6 and 7, Paul says it's his ability to stay celibate and unmarried. His ability to stay celibate and unmarried is a gift from God. I found that interesting, because then we get into the whole aspect of it's better to stay unmarried like Paul is, but it's better to marry than to burn with lust. And so everything we've been talking through is like, if you don't have that desire to be married, and I think a lot of us really mess up here with the younger generation, we should not be pushing them to get married if they don't have that desire to be married. Yes. But if we see that our child or, some young person that we're mentoring is really infatuated, with wanting a family and just can't stop looking at the other sex, and and just has that desire, then we should definitely encourage
have
them.
The conversation of marriage should be the next conversation to be pursuing.
And if you've got a couple that are Christians that are thinking about getting married, but they can't, they're having trouble like abstaining, but they know they want to get married, do not encourage the long engagement and the huge weddings. It's like, let them do the right thing.
Yeah, that's why we got married really fast.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good reason. I mean, you don't need all of that. I mean, if you're wanting to be together, then do what you need to do to be together in the right way.
Yes.
And
that is honoring to God.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But Paul says, though, if marriage is not for you, to stay unmarried, and that's okay as well.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, I don't know, there's nothing shameful about that.
That's a good word for it, yeah. I think some people, I've had friends, I don't really want to get married. I don't really have a desire to get married. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not, I think, because culture does also create that.
And you don't have to give yourself a new sexual label or anything because you don't have that desire. It could be a gift from God, like what Paul had.
Yes.
It's just how you are, and it's an okay thing.
Yes. I think I was definitely the opposite in that I wanted the white picket fence and I wanted to do the things, but there's nothing wrong with being unmarried, and as long as it isn't like it says, where is that specifically at? In 8 and 9. But it's better to be unmarried than it is to be married for burning with lust.
Yeah, that's a here. But if they can't control themselves, is what it says on this one. Yeah, then they should go ahead and get married.
That was my husband and I.
Yeah.
That we were going to get married. We got engaged in January, and then we were going to get married a year later. And that same small group, the lead man of the group was like, "Why are you taking so long to get married? Why? What do you need to do?" Because he's like, "You both have kids, and there's no reason for that." And so we like, well, you're right. I guess we don't need to do all the things and the worldly vision of what that's supposed to be. Like that's not marriage.
Yeah.
And marriage actually starts that, the work part. And so then we were going to get married that summer, but because of our past and our lust, we're like, we moved up 3 months earlier.
Yeah. That's like Kevin and I, we were engaged, and Mom and my grandma really wanted the big wedding and all that.
Yes.
I gave him 3 months to plan it.
Yep. I remember that. You're like, I am moving in with my man.
And we did. We had a beautiful wedding.
And because you also had a long distance relationship too. You're like, I am ready to be married.
Right. Right. I was more than ready. And to the point where I didn't even care about the wedding. Like I pretty much, it looked almost exactly like my mom's wedding. Because my mom planned it. But yeah, that's why everyone thinks my favorite color is purple. So. Because that was my wedding color, which I did not pick. But yeah,
it's just like
that's okay. Yeah, it wasn't the point. I was getting married. I didn't really care about those things. But then after, with all of that, and he's saying it's better to get married. But if you are married, you are to stay married.
Yes.
And it addresses here. It starts with the wives again, but it's probably because the wives, because this was all of this was in response to things he had heard in another letter. So
things that were going on in
right,
the church.
and so he probably addressed the wives first because the women were the ones who brought up the issue. But if we're married, we shouldn't leave our spouses. It's not just for the mental stability of our children. It's for the holiness that the believers bring into our marriages. It's for the possible salvation of our spouses and children. This would have been for the people that were married before they believed in Jesus. And so that, it goes down through here. It just, like, it's a big deal. It's like, but, if you're married an unbeliever, it's like, stay with that non-believer, because you're bringing holiness into your marriage for your children, for your husband. And even says, do not understand that your husbands might be saved because of you. And do you husbands realize that your wives might be saved because of you? So, it's a really big deal. It's like, don't leave your spouses. But because of certain situations up here in 11, it does say, but if she does leave him, if a wife has to leave her husband, let her remain single or reconcile with him, which, when we're talking about the reconciliation, would have been whatever would have caused her to have to leave him.
Right.
He would have been turned from that and coming back. But again, we're talking about, I've heard this argument before that the Bible is for the abuse of women, and women, should not leave abusive situations. A husband should rule over her, and all this and stuff. I actually grew up around people who believe this very strongly.
Because it's breaking the covenant of that and what God intended marriage to be.
Right.
Because then he's not following as Christ.
Right. So, but if that has to happen, then it says the woman should remain single. And that's another hard thing for us. It's another giving up our will and our body and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, now you have the opportunity to pray for your husband who you're not living with. and work on, there's a lot that happens in the spiritual battle when you're interceding for somebody.
Yes.
And just praying for that person that you're married to, that you're no longer with, to come back to God.
And hopefully you're around other believers that are, giving counsel to that and praying for as well.
Right. And a lot of these things, will make, people upset because it's very countercultural to what we've lived in. And then it also goes on to talk about, if you are married to a non-believer, and if that non-believer does not want to stay with you, then you're not under an obligation to keep that person. You let them go. Because, but if they're willing to stay, again, it's back to
work on it.
And, and hopefully through your marriage, and
they'll be saved.
Right.
Ideally, you want to make sure you find someone that is equally yoked and
right. Yeah, like this would have been for the believers that would have become, would have found the church and found Christ and become believers after they were already married. So, yeah. And that's also hard because, you didn't get married in the church. Who knows what your actual ceremony was like, and in different places, you might have been married under a different God. But at the same time, I mean, you're joined.
Yep.
And you should care about that. You should care about that. That is important.
And your role is to love that person and help them to know Christ.
Right.
Plant the seed.
Right.
As best as you can. And
right, which is interesting because even after, it's talking about this, and then it goes straight into, was it staying in your circumstances? You don't have to change your circumstances or who you are. And it goes into the circumcised or uncircumcised. You don't have to, like, get saved and be circumcised because you're not a believer, which would have been talking to the Judaizers at the time, the ones who thought you had to follow the law.
On the things that are not.
Right, but then it's talking also about, like, if you were circumcised, you don't have to try to undo it, which seems a little different. I don't really understand that one. I don't know. I'm
not sure how that works. I'm not even sure what they were trying to do then.
Nope. They not even try to figure it out. But yeah, but then it goes from marriage and being in a potentially messed up, loveless marriage, or a marriage with someone you love, but it's a non-believer. Then it goes into slavery, which I found was interesting.
It was a weird transition of that, yes.
Yeah. But, so the slave or the person that was in a marriage that wasn't quite right, it would sort of feel that way, that you were sort of stuck.
I guess that makes sense, how it transitioned into that.
Yeah. And so, like, this slave, it's like you can, if you get the chance to become free, you should take it. But if you remain a slave, then you just, you're still a believer, you're still important, and it's okay. I mean, there's maybe a reason that you're in that marriage. There's probably, there would have been a reason that you were a slave to that person, because there's influence there. And through you, other people are going to learn about Jesus and potentially become believers. I mean, you just look at Paul when he was not a slave, but a prisoner, and just the effect that he was able to have.
That was the reference I was going to use, of him talking earlier to the people that had all the pride and stuff. And but he was saying, but we should be, what was the phrase that he said? We should be fools for Christ.
Yeah.
And so not the slaves are fools, but in those situations where it is difficult, when you are facing things that you're still an example for Christ.
Which is hard, because now you know that you are an heir to the throne. You're like right there, co-heirs with Jesus, and beside the Creator. And so you're like been elevated spiritually to this position. But God wants us to be humble. And he wants us to work alongside the other human beings that aren't there yet, so that they can also gain that status.
No matter what that looks like for us.
Right. Right.
Which right now I'm pretty comfy in my life and I'm not facing struggles right now. So it's easy for me to say, but it's encouraging to know if I do face that, like, God's still there. God's there with them. God's in it with them. God sees them. They're not less than.
No.
By any means in God's eyes.
No, and you look at all the places when when Joseph was a slave, those were the people that were used so much, or even Esther.
In big ways.
Esther was married to a pagan king.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a kosher wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And yet God used her to save all of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And
so we can those can be big things. So and we may not see it. So whoever is in those situations, like, it may not be in your lifetime that you see it.
Right. But God is using it. He uses all things. He works them out for the good. Paul is calling us to embrace who we are. We don't have to change our culture or situations to become more holy. We only need to keep God's commandments. So that goes through 24. And 25 through 28, Paul is speaking about the virgins here. It's not just women. Apparently there was something in the letter that he got sent about what to do with the virgins and whether or not they should be married.
What do we do about these guys over here?
Right. and Paul's I don't know. It didn't seem like he really thought it was that big of a deal. Yeah, it's like, if they want to get married, they can get married. But he was also talking about something that was going on. Because it says those who use the things of the world should not become attached to them, for this world as we know it will soon pass away. It says, I want you to be free from the concerns of this life. An unmarried man can spend his time doing the Lord's work and thinking how to please him, but a married man has to think about his earthly responsibilities and how to please his wife. So that's, again, the whole thing about
unmarried and married.
Unmarried or married. Yeah. And by 28, there was about a young woman getting married. At this time, we'll have troubles, and I'm trying to spare you those problems. So what I had read was that there might have been like a food shortage, some kind of a famine at that time. And so he could have been just, because when a woman gets married, she inevitably has children. And if they were, since they were having a food shortage at the time he was writing this.
He's like, don't do that.
Yeah, it's like, if you don't need to do that, don't, because it's going to be,
that's going to be really hard.
Right. It's going to make things much harder on you.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't make it harder than it needs to be.
Right. It talks, where is it? We're bound to their husbands until they die, which is a good thing to know. If your husband passes away, then you are free to get married again. But you don't have to. But if you're a believer and your husband passes away, it says you are free to get married, but only if he loves the Lord. But again, at the very end, he wants to push it in there again just to let him know. But in my opinion, it would be better for her to stay single. And I think I am giving you counsel from God's Spirit when I say this. He's like, all this stuff about marriage. And yes, singlehood, that's where it's at.
Yeah, you started single. If you get married and you lose your husband, you should just, my suggestion, just stay single.
Yeah. Well, and you see those people like Anna in the temple, getting to see Jesus, and she was just devoting her life to prayer. And I wouldn't, you think about being lonely as a widow or a widower, but if you're in a community of believers and you get that chance to actually connect with God, it really wouldn't be bad. It'd be really good.
Well, I always tease Josh. He's can't be selfish. He can't go before me because I won't be able to do it without him.
Well, you just have to be in a good community.
I know I'll be okay.
Yeah.
If that's
no, well, it's nothing any of us ever want to think about, but
it's inevitable and it's okay.
Yeah, one of us will probably be, unless there's a tragic accident, which we don't want that either.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I will embrace potential singlehood.
Yep.
But not planning for it.
Right.
Don't worry, babe. I'm not plotting anything.